Hello, welcome everyone to Daily Distraction here on Fightful.com. You already see the lovely Ricky Starks just posing, mugging for the camera before we even begin. I am Jeremy Lambert, joined as always by my co-host Joe Hulbert. Joe, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. The features are back, but that feels like a non-news story today. Right? We've got an actual star on the show. I'm going to take a step back today. Usually I'd kind of plug my stuff in, but I'm good. Yeah, better for this right now. Yeah, definitely.
And as you see, if you are watching on YouTube, we have former NWA Television champion, the young god, Ricky Starks. Ricky, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Self-quarantining. I've been preparing this for my entire life, my entire adult life. So I am well prepared for this moment, and I'm feeling great.
How as a wrestler are you prepared to self quarantine your entire life? Like, isn't you go to shows?
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm like, I hate. Let me rephrase that. It's not that I hate people. It's that when I come from a show, I just rather be inside by myself. Just pretty much hanging out. So I make that joke where I'm just like, I've been doing this for so long. It's nothing.
Glad to see we have stuff in common straight away then. Real social guys here on the podcast. Good to see it. Good to see it.
I mean, I go in waves.
How's it been with this self quarantine? I mean, you mentioned it. There's no shows. Nobody's running anything. I mean, what have you been doing to essentially pass the time?
Honestly, I've been doing at-home workouts. I've been catching up on video games. I already finished Hitman on Xbox One. So I was just going through back on that, and then I just replayed Red Dead, just finishing up some extra missions on there, and watching wrestling really, and that's it. There's not much to do, Everything here in Austin, Texas is closed. The gyms are closed, bars, everything. So there's not really much to like occupy your time with besides just being by yourself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I must say we was mostly in common there. The workout part I have to leave to the side. But anyway, do we get straight into pro wrestling, or should we keep talking about, I mean, I can get into wrestling questions if you like, Jeremy. Have you got anything you want to lead with?
Oh, I was gonna talk more about video games, but you can go with
Yeah,
wrestling.
I felt you were. Would you like to come all the way back and then we'll finish video games if you like? So I
Trevor.
don't think it's a hot take to say that you've one of the highlights of NWA Power, right? I think you probably get that a lot on social media and stuff. And I was wondering kind of your affinity for the NWA style. Is that something that's new since you've been brought into the product, or is that something you've always liked and enjoyed way before this even became a thing?
To be straight with you, I never really watched it. I
Yeah.
didn't grow up around that time period. And so when I started watching wrestling, NWA had, as far as national TV goes,
Hmm.
there wasn't anything like that. So as I got older, of course, I went back and watched a lot of NWA stuff. Uh, and it wasn't anything that I thought that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Just because the way that the NWA current wasn't even a thought in my mind of how it could be. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah, definitely.
I never really cared to be a part of it. But after seeing it and being presented, I was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome! This is great!
Yeah.
This is a perfect time to really get my foot in and make something out of nothing." But so with that being said, I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, respect history." It isn't that. It's just I didn't grow up on it, so I don't have a relationship to it like that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Definitely. 100%.
Yeah.
The NWA Television title tournament. Tell us a little bit just how that came about, how your name got thrown into the mix, and then finding out you're gonna win the title.
I think after the showing that I had against Colt and Aaron Stevens, obviously that didn't go the way that I thought it would. So I think after that, I think once people started to see like, oh, he actually can talk and he can wrestle. I think now there was more of a push to try to get another title in, not only for helping out someone else as far as, you have so much talent and you need to try to disperse this across multiple channels, but also too, it's just to shake things up and, give something back to the older generation, the older crowd that really grew up on it. So that's how I really came into that. It's just based off of, it was just a natural progression from the national title to the TV title. And man, honestly, that whole tournament was great. I will tell you, the pay-per-view day was not great for me because I was so stressed out. I was so just tired and beat up in like 3 matches, man. 3 long matches.
Yeah.
Like, come on. That's crazy.
I mean, you were in the main event of the show though. Like, you headlined over Aldous and Flip Gordon. Like, when they told you that, like, yeah, we're gonna headline with the finals of this TV tournament, like, what's going through your mind?
I'll be straight with you. It was like, yeah, I'm excited, but I think I somehow warped things in my head to the point where I go, okay, about time. Like that. It's very cocky, but it's a way for me to not trip out and not freak out and be like, oh my God, the main event. To me, it's just like, okay, that was a given. I expected that. And this isn't anything new to me. So when it came to that time, that's how I kind of interpreted that, just to ease my worries a bit.
Yeah, I've got to take this rare excuse to about Trevor Murdoch for a moment. Trevor Murdoch is a super unique piece of the modern wrestling puzzle, right? Like, it came out of nowhere, and there's a lot to talk about. But I was wondering, I assume you never expected to main event a pay-per-view against Trevor Murdoch, but did you have any prior perception of Trevor? Like, what's it been like working with him? Because he's an awesome part of it, okay?
Trevor's really cool, man. He's really cool, and actually, I like Trevor for the fact that he has a real rugged style. In our first encounter, I don't think he expected me to be so brawly and so scrappy in that sense. And then Trevor really lays his stuff in. So I like that physicality. I've always liked that. A lot of people think I don't because it's like, oh, this handsome guy is, real timid and things like that. But no, I like that about Trevor. And he comes from that schooling, especially going over to Japan and wrestling over there. Like, that's perfect. That's all I wanted. That's why I like wrestling Eddie Kingston, because those dudes love that all Japan style. So yeah, Trevor's awesome, but never in a lifetime would I have ever expected when I was younger watching Trevor on Raw and being like, oh, I'm a main event a pay-per-view. Never.
Yeah, that was a strange moment, I think, for all of us. For you, it must have been super odd, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's so surreal, and sometimes I don't really take the time to like look back and be like, yo, what if 15-year-old Ricky was like, what's going on?
You mentioned Eddie Kingston, and that's a guy who he's been around forever, and is always just, his promos have just always been fantastic from his ROH days all the way to now. Have you talked with him about promos and just gotten any advice from him on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Eddie's a really good friend of mine. A funny note though is that when I cut after the match, the pay-per-view match, I had to cut another promo backstage immediately, and Eddie was off in the distance, and you actually see on the camera, I'm constantly looking at him, like my eyes are just diverting off, and he watched it, and afterwards he like gave me a hug and told me that was great, and things like that. So Eddie has always been a very big supporter of me as far as being real and authentic, and he gets me. Like, that's the cool part about it. Eddie gets me as a person, and he knows I'm not one to be messed with, but he gets that part of me. So I think that's why he's always willing to help me out and take me under his wing, essentially.
You guys had a match, it was a tournament match before the pay-per-view, right? You guys did say on NWA?
Yeah, we had that, and then we had a match at Inspire as well, too. Okay. So,
yeah, I mean, he's definitely another one I think that people always bring up as like a highlight of the show. But both of your styles, that was a good question, Jeremy. I'll give you a props on that, because both of you guys have that promo style that really fits the studio thing, right? So yeah, that makes sense, to be honest. That makes a lot of sense.
How have you, when we talked a few months ago, the studio stuff was like completely new. How have you like warmed up to it since then?
You know what? After the second taping, I was already used to it, and I don't know how I did that. The first time I went out, it's so weird. But I think what happened was I cut that promo after my match with Trevor, and I think that's when it just clicked. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh wow, like I'm okay. I'll be fine. And I think after that, it was pretty much smooth sailing. for me at least.
Yeah, I know you want to get to the broom match, Jeremy, and rightly so, because that is currently the front runner, right, for match of the year, I believe, from what I can tell. So I do want to quickly mention, because this just came to mind, but so a few months ago, maybe you didn't listen to that, there was this Undertaker clip that went viral, right, of him talking about the stylistic thing, and I'm watching this clip, and I can't expect what he's going to say. That bit didn't kind of catch me off guard, but I see you there. I'm sorry if I've missed the memo. Is there any explanation as to where this came from, what the story is to this? Because I'd love to hear it. I don't know it.
Yeah, so this is the weird thing. That was filmed in 2017 with me and my partner, Solo, Aaron Solo. And just to give you a quick background, so I used to train at this gym in Austin called On It, and Taker was there one day. He was there one day training, and there was a guy doing a documentary on Taker for his match against Shane in Dallas. And so I would always be there when he's training, and he's doing like box jumps and things like that. Mind you, this is after his surgery with his knee surgery. So he's getting prepared, and I guess he was just filming a documentary because maybe he thought this would be the last match. And so the guy, Brandon, who was filming it, knew that I was a huge Taker fan and wanted to interview me and get some comments about it. And that's how I kind of like started talking to Taker. He's a really cool dude, just so surreal. I just remember going up to him like, hey, I just want to not bother you, just want to thank you, et cetera, et cetera. So that happened. And then like a year goes by or whatever. Essentially, we get up to the point where now Taker's coming back to do that match with Cena. And he actually asked for me and Solo to come and, do the WrestleMania. Like he rented a ring in this little building, and then he was just in there practicing. So we were helping Taker train for his match at Mania. In addition to that, at the time, we were also doing a documentary on me and Solo as far as just two dudes trying to make it in wrestling. And that went from like Mexico to Laredo, and he wanted to get a scene with Taker at a barbecue spot where we just ask him, we just sit around and ask him advice and talk to him. So that's where that came from, was that documentary on us. And it was so weird because I posted back in 2017 on YouTube, and obviously back then no one really knew who I was. And then all of a sudden it came back up, and I was like, what is going on? This is so crazy.
I don't know if I've just uncovered a scoop there or that's like well-known knowledge. I just retell a story, but I appreciate it because I had no idea as to how that came about or why. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Most people don't, and it's so funny because people are like, oh, Ricky listened to Taker's advice, and now look at it. It's like, well, hold on, because yes and no. There's a lot of things that I had already was doing just by watching Taker so much that it was just, I guess you can just say, cemented by what he was telling me. Yeah. So I essentially had the Austin Taker interview way before that was even a thing. I knew about all that stuff way before that podcast even came up. So it was really cool to see, and it was kind of bizarre to me that it just resurfaced in that sense. So it's funny how the internet works, man.
I remember that clip coming out like a year and a half ago because this was when Taker, he did the big interview with the pastor, and Taker does so many like he does so many like not out of character interviews that like this was Sean was telling us like get anything you can from this interview, like transcribe anything you can from this interview. And then I stumbled upon the clip you're talking about with you and Solo and transcribed some stuff with that. And I don't think at the time I put two and two together like, oh, that's Ricky Starks, that's Aaron Solo. Like it was just Undertaker, and I was just getting what he said. But yeah, now it's I didn't realize this clip popped back up because I knew it was like a year and a half old or so.
Yeah, I'm glad it's become a thing though, right? Like we're actually getting some stuff from Taker because that stuff is legitimately insightful. I mean, I understand for someone who's protective of his character and stuff, but there's a lot that he can add. He's a very unique place in wrestling, right? He played one character and changed it all those many times. So I'm glad that stuff's becoming a thing now.
Yeah, but also too, I kind of as a big fan, it's still weird for me in a selfish way to see the social media and stuff like that, Yeah,
the Twitter and stuff is strange, right? Definitely.
yeah, it's been for so long, and I know that for him that he wants to finally step out of that essentially and not have to be behind that so much. But as a selfish like 8-year-old inside of me, I'm just like, man, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it was still a cool experience nonetheless. It gave me such great advice, like advice I take to the grave, and advice that really is long lasting in my mind still to this day, that I think about and do things in a certain way. So yeah, that was such a crazy experience. Like I'm the biggest fan of Taker. So to even be in a ring or even go and have barbecue with him and get advice from him, what? I remember sitting down and he watched a match of mine from Inspire. That wasn't recorded or anything, but that was like, I just couldn't believe that this dude was just sitting on the couch next to me watching my match, and yeah, that's just crazy. Yeah.
Did you do Taker on the e-fetting? I mean, you said you did Raven.
I did Taker. I did Taker like a few times actually. I did Taker, and then I did a character that was similar to Raven, because there was times where you could use real characters, and then I made up my own. But yeah, I did Taker quite a few. I was actually looking back through some old Wayback Machine through the Angel Fire websites, and I remember I have all these Taker websites bookmarked right now, still up there, of just different pictures I would use from different promos and things like that, and then getting the network and going back and being like, oh, this is where all this came from. I got it. So yeah.
For those that don't know, Ricky was a big e-fetter growing up. When we talked a couple months ago, we had a big in-depth discussion, because I did the same thing, and this is like how you do these online written promos essentially as your own character or as real life characters, and then you turned that into a full career of cutting promos on television.
Pretty much, yeah. The great thing too is I have some of those saved. I still have the promos that I did saved on my computer somehow. But it's just, man, such a great time period for me. It really was a big part of my childhood, all the way up until I was like 18 or 17, that I was still doing e-fetting.
Let's talk about this broom match, because this was the highlight of the quarantine that is going on. We hear it all the time. This guy can have a great match with a broom, and you just decided, well, I'm gonna have a great match with a broom. How is this whole thing set up?
So I was bored on Twitter, and I was like,
That's how all great ideas start.
Yeah.
I said something to the extent of, at this point, y'all want to see me just wrestle in my living room? And the reaction to it was like pretty solid, and I was like, oh shoot, okay. And then like I wasn't gonna do anything. I was just gonna reply with like, oh sorry guys, that got canceled due to quarantine. But then I was like, what if I just make a poster? Because I do a little bit of Photoshop, and so I went on, and I was just bored again on a Saturday. And I made a little poster, and I thought it was funny. I was chuckling to myself, and I posted it. And then that got a big reaction. I was like, oh, shit, I put myself in a corner now. So I had to go that night and then I had to go and do my match with the broom. And, yeah, it was my broom. I still haven't got a new one. I had some help. Really, it was all on the fly. I've had this thing now. Well, I've had it for a few years where I have an idea, right? And I have to do it. I make this. I had a resolution one year where I was like, any idea I have, I'm going to just put it to action. I'm not going to just sit on ideas. I used to come up with all these crazy ideas, man, of things that'd be funny to do and stupid, and I would never do it. So now I do that. That's how those vignettes came about. And that's how I have other videos where I did like an Everest commercial that I may post actually today. It's an old one that I did. If you remember those, if you lived in the States, what are you waiting for? Get off the couch. Do it now. So yeah, that's really how that came to be. It's just, I kept pushing it, and I just put myself in a position where I was like, oh, I have to do it now. So that's how it came about.
I mean, I don't want to pull the curtain back too far here, but it was interesting that you chose to elevate the young broom. Was that just a choice to show you're kind of selfless, What was the thinking behind that booking decision? I've got to ask it, Jeremy. It's a big question online,
He showed a lot of guts. So he had a lot of gumption, and I see something in him, man. I really do. He's helped me out quite a bit. So
you're paid the favor.
The match was not a clean sweep at all. But, it was close. Very close.
Where was that shot at? Just a friend's house?
That's so the ring. There's a local school that I used to train at
Okay.
here that I went and did that at, and I said, "Hey, do you mind if I just wrestle this broom?" And they go, "Oh, okay." So as I'm wrestling, all these people are coming in and out, and they're, "What is going on?" He's like, "Oh, he's just wrestling a broom." Dude, I had a great setup. I had the crowd, the crowd sound
Yeah.
going through the PA. I found this great theme song for the broom. It was just totally awesome. And then it was a street fight, so I was dressed in jeans and my shirt, you know.
That I think that was my favorite part is you didn't do ring gear. You're like, this is a actual fight right here, so I'm coming prepared as a street fight. That's a lost art in wrestling where it's a street fight and they still come out and they do all their ring entrance nonsense, and it's just like, if you're gonna fight. Don't start with a lockup.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I called it a good housekeeping match.
I think Nick Aldis referred to it as bunkhouse attire, correct? That was what I think on social media he used that as his description of it, I think. Yeah.
I don't know if a lot of people got that reference or not.
They should have. It was great. Yeah.
Makes me want to go watch that match. I haven't seen that match in some time now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't get carried away, Ricky. It's not going too far, but yeah, it's definitely one of those ones I think you should get it, but perhaps not dwell on it for too long, I think.
Sure, very good point.
Have you heard anything from the NWA? I know they postponed the upcoming pay-per-view. They postponed tapings. Have you been in contact with them about when things might get started back up?
Honestly, I did talk to Lagana. At this point, everything is up in the air. We don't know exactly when it'll be back, or there's some talk about June or things like that. So I really don't know. You also have to keep in mind too, Billy is currently on tour, I believe, or excuse me, he was going to start tour after the second taping day or so. So that's another thing that he has to deal with as well. So he's juggling two things right now. So as far as it's concerned, it goes that the NWA is postponed until we can figure out what's a good time to come back and have those tapings.
I think
I know I said.
Go ahead,
Joey. I know it's an easy question, but obviously, we don't know when it's going to happen. But just speaking generally, is there anything you said earlier about you was kind of expected to be a main event and all that deal? But is there anything generally you want to do in the NWA when things are back rolling as normal? I assume obviously title belts and stuff. But any programs you'd really look into work or anything like that?
Honestly, I definitely like to have something of more substance with Eddie, for sure. In addition to that, obviously something more with Nick. And just on the surface, those two things. Obviously, the stuff with Zicky, I want to see that all the way through. But as far as those three goes, that's essentially what I was having my eye set on for right now.
Okay.
Any talks with ROH now that the partnership is back on? Before all this happened, were there any talks of you possibly doing some matches with them?
No, there wasn't any talks. I did hear that Marty was there and enjoyed my stuff. So, I mean, that's a plus. But as far as getting something going on with them and showing up on their broadcast or anything like that, no, there wasn't any talks that I know of. So that could be different if there was something behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to Mania, what'd you have scheduled for Mania, and what's up with what's going on with Mania? Did you have anything booked?
Yeah, I was booked on quite a few stuff, actually. I had Effie's brunch. I had the Texas Forever show. I was supposed to be on, I think WrestleCon had an international show. Mm-hmm. There was talks of that. And then there was something else. But those were the main ones, of course. That I had at least. But yeah, unfortunately, that kind of didn't work out.
And this was going to be your first big, I think, since being an NWA superstar, your first big Mania week. And I would imagine everyone talks about Mania week just being this is the breakout week and everything. I would imagine it's pretty devastating to lose out on all of that.
Yeah, the funny thing is I had been going to Mania for quite some time, like 6-7 years at that point. And this would have been the first one that I was actually booked on. So it does suck. It really does. But then the way I try to internalize things is everything's put in perspective for me. So if it wasn't meant for me in this go around, maybe there's something like way bigger and better, you know? So yeah, it definitely sucks and hurts a bit just because I finally got on something after going to these things for so long. But that's how it works out sometimes. You really think you're close to it and then it gets pulled away.
I was wondering, how prevalent is that like NWA bump? Because I think it's pretty hard for us to gauge. Obviously, you see the YouTube numbers, right? But the actual reach of it as a brand, has it been a real game changer for you?
Me personally, I think it has, just because there's a lot of people who didn't know about me that became fans, let's say, off of the promo. If you weren't watching the product, at least you had saw the promo.
Yeah.
Also, too, people who watch the product and things like that, I've gotten fans. So it's helped out quite a bit. Obviously, I'm having to keep throwing coal into that fire to keep things going. Yeah. But by far, it's helped me out tenfold, man. And cool. I can't even be more appreciative of NWA for that.
Yeah. You're one of the few people who actually knows how to use social media well. You don't say anything too stupid, except the one time where you were talking about the guy jerking off in the bathroom or something. You had the scoop on that. It was now I'm gonna confuse the hell out of you, but we were talking about wrestling scoops on Twitter, and you're like, oh, I just heard somebody in the next bathroom making. I'd have to pull it up. Oh my god, because now I see the look on your face, and you're like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's an even bigger mystery to me, so I don't know.
Yeah, the only reason I'm so surprised is because I'm like, wow, I have some big balls to do that.
Let me ask the question, and then I'll look for this tweet so I correct myself and get it all together.
So I can delete it.
But you're one of the few people who are good at social media, and with the broom stuff, with the Photoshop and stuff, like you've been able to sort of stay relevant through this, while other people are just kind of going silent throughout this whole thing. How does your practice come into that with the social media?
Honestly, I don't have a practice. I was never taught how to use social media. In fact, I'm so against it in a way, just because of it really messes with your mind, you know? And so I really don't know that I have a method to my madness. I think what it is if I go, well, if someone laughs, if my brother laughs, or if someone laughs at something I do, then okay, I can probably multiply that. But I don't have a really specific method to social media. I'm still learning it as I go, you know. I can tell you that there's some times where I want to post things that I think is funny that I find someone else would find funny, and it's a little bit too like risque. Yeah. And then I have to go, okay, like recently I posted a picture of a pose that I do, you know, but it was like in a sexual position pose. And I had to delete it. Because it was a little bit too much, but people thought it was funny. So I don't know. There's a line there that I guess I'm still having to figure out. But then, honestly, y'all, sometimes I go, I don't give it. I don't care. I'm gonna just post it. And then if it doesn't react, it doesn't react.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough real stuff to stress about for you, I'd imagine, rather than worrying too much about people being upset on Twitter and stuff, right? You got to sometimes let it slide. Yeah.
Honestly, there was a time where I was like, oh, I can't curse on social media. And then I remember I was like, yo, the CEO of one of the biggest wrestling companies said the N-word on pay-per-view. I think I'm okay. I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, you've always got the pro wrestler excuse at the end of the day. You're a pro wrestler, man. We don't care, right? We just want to have fun. That's all that matters to us.
Yeah, I feel like people want to hear things that are relatable to them, not always in such a branding content way, you know?
100%. I don't know if Jeremy's finished his investigation as to this tweet he's searching for or not. He seems to be in the middle of it.
I think the worst thing. I think the worst thing on Twitter is when people like aren't themselves, and it is just like, oh, hey, promotional tweet. Like that doesn't serve anybody to me.
Right. And that's the other thing too that I have to balance as well. It's like, oh, can you repost this ad or this wrestling promotion? It goes, okay, that event is 3 weeks from now. Why will I post it right now? It's going to get hidden in almost everything on the timeline. So that's things that I have to deal with and combat. But I think ultimately I try to at least showcase my personality through that as much as possible. And there's sometimes that my jokes are a little bit too much. And sometimes there's jokes that are like, wow, I can't believe he said that. I've been thinking that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, here's the tweet. You tweeted, so are wrestlers just edging in the bathroom and taking pics now? That's the tweet.
That was a very valid question. Because first off, I used the word edging wrong in that sense. Okay, it should have been fluffing. But also too, dude, on my timeline, I swear to you, there was just dudes in the bathroom in gray sweatpants almost every other. I was like, what is going on? Why? This is what we do. I think that one did pretty good numbers as well.
It did. I just replied Ricky ... because and
it was a valid question.
Okay. I mean, your reply to me was the landscape is changing. I'm just an innocent bystander reporting on the news.
Essentially, yeah. Thank you. Exactly. And so now, that stopped. Thank God that stopped. But I don't know if y'all saw that or not, but I swear to you, every picture was just a dude and like trying to show off his hog. And I was like, what is this? Come on. This is silly.
Real quickly before we wrap things up, because I do want to get some video game talks. Are you mainly playing just first-person shooters? You said Red Dead, and there was one other, but is it mainly first-person shooters? Hitman, yeah.
Yeah, it's just the games that I've had for so long. I just refuse to buy any new stuff. But yeah, those are just the main ones. I mean, I play Assassin's Creed also too, and then I just got The Sims because it was like $10. Still on sale, by the way, if you're interested in it. If you have an Xbox, I don't know if you both do, but I love The Sims on PC, so I figured why not use that time to live my life through something else since I can't leave.
I am PlayStation, not Xbox, so otherwise I would gladly play you online.
Oh, yeah, everyone says it. I used to have a PlayStation 2, which I still do, but I don't know. The Xbox is my whole media center.
I mean, that's the way to do it. You don't play any sports games? It's just get a new game, Ricky.
Here's a good tidbit about me that you can probably report on and make a good clickbait headline is that I actually don't watch sports. I grew up without a father, so I never was introduced. That's a joke that sometimes hits and sometimes it doesn't. Like, but no, I don't watch any sports besides Saints games and LSU games because I have to. But yeah, I don't watch any sports, man. I've only watched wrestling my entire life, which is sad.
It's the king of sports, right? That's the best way to describe it. I think you made a good call, to be honest with you. I wish I was the same way a lot of times.
I wish I could get into that and have something to talk about with people. But when people talk to me about like, oh, did you see like the Warriors games or something like that? I'm like, I don't know. I know them. I know the people. I just don't watch. It's too boring for me. Boxing. I love boxing.
Okay, another good thing in common here. Note it down, Jeremy.
Okay, I was about to say, I love boxing. That's fun. That's great to me, but that's pretty much it.
Will you ever wear 50-pound ring gear for your entrance?
Dude, no way. There's nothing I can think of that would weigh that much. Unless I'm carrying a real-life carcass of an animal to the ring, then maybe.
That would look out of place in the NWA studio, I think, to be honest.
That would be sick, though. Just walking down the ramps with a bloody carcass. That's awesome.
That would get you in trouble on social media, I think. But again, who cares, right? Like you said, who cares?
Who can cancel me? just delete my Twitter, and I'm fine.
Ricky, I want to thank you for joining us on the show today and talking about all the variety of topics we talked about. Go ahead, and where can the people find you on social media? I don't know if they want to look at your social media after this.
I think they'll love it. If you have Instagram, you'll love that. My Instagram is StarkyBaby, and my Twitter is StarkmanJones. Those are the main two that I use, actually. Though I did want to ask one more question, Jeremy. I need the winning numbers, because you said that Monday, so I need the winning numbers, and I have a pin, and I'm ready to go.
I had the scoops for I don't even remember what show it was that I had the scoops for, but all right, how many numbers are there in the lottery that you play?
Give me 10, and it cuts off somewhere around that time.
Okay, so 13, 36, 23, 21, 3,912, 0, and 69.
Perfect. Now, this does not, if these are winning numbers, this doesn't give you like some type of stake in getting any of this. So
I should have gotten that written into a contract before I gave you the numbers. Like, if these hit, then I'm owed 10-20%, but you've already got me on that one. Damn it.
I liked how poised you were when delivering those numbers. Like, you've been asked many times over for such a thing. You was like, okay, let me just get to it. 1 second.
I think like 3 people asked me, like, do you have winning lottery numbers after I posted my fake scoops or whatever. People were like, oh, you got winning lottery numbers. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Well, they hit. So, I mean, if you can correctly guess the WrestleMania ones, then that would be even better.
I will give you the WrestleMania scoops when I find them, which will be Wednesday, I guess, is when they're taping. So we'll know on Wednesday.
And Tuesday.
Isn't it Wednesday and Thursday?
Thursday, sorry.
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday.
This is all so confusing, right? This is really becoming too much to follow now.
And I'll be honest with both of you. I don't know if I will watch, but it just will be like a passing glance of, oh, what's on? Okay. I can't shake that feeling of how it is going to turn out.
Yeah. So I was actually going to ask you, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how silly is empty arena wrestling? I didn't know if you had like a take on that, or it just seems odd, man. It's a super strange situation.
So I'm kind of split between it, because I understand that there needs to be some type of escape from reality. And a lot of people make that comparison when 9/11 happened. But the difference, though, was that there were people in the arena after 9/11 that were still trying to escape as well. So they were fully immersed in that. This is just empty chairs, and it's very awkward. I've watched both Raw and SmackDown, and I couldn't get into it. I appreciate and fully support the people that were there trying to put on a show, but I cannot watch it and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I'm with you. I think we spoke about it's just such an odd. It's odd in theory, and in execution, it's even stranger because, as you say, there's empty seats there. It reminds you a bit of anything. It doesn't even really allow you to escape. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's so bizarre. It reminds me of having to do like the tryout matches before SmackDown when I was an extra, and it's just a very bizarre thing. At least have some other people in the crowd, like other wrestlers, let's say. Yeah. But yeah, it's such a bizarre thing, and then to see some indie companies doing it now, it's just like, you guys don't do that. No one wants to see an empty arena match from Indiana or Arizona or whatever the case may be. We're just putting more people at risk in those situations. But yeah, I thought I was, the only one in that situation feeling that way, but yeah, I don't like it.
No,
definitely
safe.
not alone.
We don't need to fly all these people in or have them travel, anything like that, because we don't know who has it and who doesn't. You can not have symptoms and still have it. Like, just be safe, everyone. We've ranted about this plenty on this show, but I'm glad you shared this sentiment, because it's good to hear it from another wrestler.
Just stay inside. The quicker everyone stays inside, the quicker this will all be over,
Exactly. Ricky, one more time, hit him with the social media.
Twitter, StarkmanJones. Instagram, StarkyBaby. Those are the two places you can find me. You can add me on Facebook, but all I do is repost memes that aren't that funny. So you wouldn't want that.
There you go. We appreciate everyone for listening. Thanks again to Ricky Starks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow for another Daily Distraction, the second round of the WWE March Madness tournament. The first round is going to be concluding here in a matter of hours. Go follow Joe Hulbert on Twitter at JoeHulbert5. Vote on the women's region, and we will have the full second round bracketology tomorrow. So thanks everybody for joining us. We'll talk to you tomorrow.